Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Thank you for inviting me to speak to you today. My name's Stella Campion and I work in the Academic Skills Centre. Actually, I've been at this university for 3 years, but this is my first visit to the Department of Languages, so I'm very pleased to be here. As you know, our topic today is critical thinking. Now, this is one of the things that's very important when you study at this level. But what does it mean exactly? This morning, I'll explain some of the most important ideas about critical thinking, and I'll explain how critical thinking can help you as a language learner. If you have any questions, I'll deal with them at the end, if that's okay. Now, I'm sure we all know what we mean by thinking, but what about the word critical? Maybe critical sounds rather unfriendly to you, like saying that someone or something is bad or wrong. But when we talk about critical thinking, we don't just mean critical in this rather negative sense. It's true, we're talking about an attitude or a way of looking at the world, but it's not a negative attitude. Instead, critical thinking means that we have a questioning attitude towards things. We ask questions about things, but these questions are not questions about facts. Let me give you an example. If I ask, what's the longest river in Australia? Maybe you know the answer already, or you can check quickly on the internet. So this isn't the kind of question we ask when we do critical thinking. Instead, in critical thinking, we ask about the reasons for something, or we try to judge something, to form an opinion about it, to decide if it's good or bad. So we ask questions like, why is he or she saying that? What's the reason for that? Is that a good idea? These are critical thinking questions. Okay, but how can this critical thinking help us learn a language? Well, let's think about reading texts for a minute. If you ask questions about the text while you're reading, you'll probably understand the text better. So, critical thinking can help you to improve your reading comprehension. One question you can always ask is, why is the writer writing this text? What's the writer's aim? Look for reasons why the writer wrote that text. Is the writer just giving you some information? Or trying to persuade you that his or her ideas are good? Another question you can ask when you read is, how do I know that what I'm reading is true? To do this, you must look for evidence or proof. If the writer makes a point, see if he or she gives evidence to support that point. If someone gives us evidence, for example, some data, then that makes the argument stronger. If there's evidence, it's more difficult for us to say, your ideas are wrong. Finally, another question that you can ask is, what's the relationship between the ideas in the text? Maybe this is a little difficult to understand, but for example, ask yourself, is the text describing a problem and giving a solution to that problem? Or is the text comparing and contrasting two things, looking at similarities and differences? Or again, is the text looking at causes and effects, the reason why something happens and the results of that? If we understand these relationships between different parts of the text, we can understand the whole text a lot better. So, as I've said, critical thinking in its simplest form is about asking questions. Don't forget, too, that critical thinking doesn't mean thinking only by yourself. You can work with other students and discuss things together. Critical thinking can be a group activity. So, what I'd like you to do now